Hi, welcome to Two Friends in a Kitchen. Today we're going to make a wonderful dish for any side to an entree of meat, chicken, or fish, and it's going to be roasted potatoes and squash. This is such a cool dish. It's a combination of potatoes and any kind of squash that's in season. Today you can see we're using dark zucchini, yellow zucchini, and light green. It's a combination of all the zucchinis that are currently in your market, but you can use any kind of squash that you prefer. We're going to start with the potatoes because what we know is that potatoes take longer to cook than zucchini. So you just take your cleaned potatoes, these have all been cleaned and prepared, cut them into quarters and then into eighths and set them aside. In this recipe today we're going to use 4 potatoes and we're going to use 6 squash, and this is about enough for a side for 4 people. So next we've taken our cut potatoes and we've put them in our bowl, and we're going to take 2 tablespoons. I've already put 1. We're going to put the 2nd tablespoon of olive oil over our potatoes. We're going to toss it until it's evenly covering our potatoes. We want just enough olive oil to cover the potatoes and keep them moist as they're roasting. And now, one of the techniques we learned when we made kale chips was that the olive oil, once it's coated on top of the ingredient, helps to keep the spices that you add clinging to the ingredient for more of a tasty experience. So we're going to add a teaspoon of salt to our potatoes. And we're going to toss again until it's evenly covering. Our next step will be to take our potatoes and put them into a prepared pan to roast. So let's pop our potatoes into the oven, middle shelf again, always a good thing, at 400 degrees preheated. We're going to set our timer for 20 minutes and check on those potatoes and see how they're roasting up. So while the potatoes are roasting, Cindy's going to cut up our squash. She's going to cut off the top and the bottom. And then with this recipe, everything is very chunky. So she's going to cut about 1/2 inch chunks of zucchini, maybe a little bit bigger. Yeah, because you want them chunky. And we're going to cut them like that. We're not going to slice them any further. We're going to keep everything very chunky in the roasting so it's ready for the roasting process. The great part of this dish is going to be the combination of tastes of potatoes and vegetables.
This one too?
Ready? Once Cindy's done, she's going to put everything into the bowl again. And just like we did with the potatoes, we're going to add a tablespoon of olive oil, toss it till it's evenly covered, and this time we'll put in a 1/2 teaspoon of salt for the zucchini. We can always add more salt later to taste, but we'll start with a 1/2 teaspoon of salt this time, just so that we don't over salt our dish. Let's put all the zucchini in the bowl. Get my little tops out of the way. We'll put in our tablespoon of olive oil. Give me a generous tablespoon. Also, one thing we want to make sure you know is that if it doesn't look like there's enough olive oil covering that zucchini, don't be afraid to put a little more olive oil in to get it evenly coated. This looks really good, so we'll leave it the way it is. We'll take a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, sprinkle it over the squash. Cindy will mix it up, and we're going to place it aside until our potatoes are halfway roasted, and then we'll be adding the zucchini to the potato pan.
Perfect.
The potatoes have cooked in a 400-degree oven now for 20 minutes. They're lightly browned, as you can see. I'm going to toss them a little bit. Notice how I'm using a spatula, just in case they are sticking. Even though we sprayed it with olive oil spray, you still can have a little bit of sticking, so use the spatula so you don't leave too much of the potato on the pan. And we're ready to add our lightly olive oiled squash to the pan. I'm trying to spread it out evenly as I empty it onto the cooking pan, or the cooking pan. And then we're just going to mix in the squash with the potatoes as if they're now a vegetable potato mixture. Then we're going to pop it back into that 400-degree oven for another 20 minutes and roast them together.
So Linda, here's our roasted potatoes and zucchini and squash. It looks amazing. Really, it's so beautiful and it smells so good. I can't wait to taste it.
And it was so easy. It was about a 15-minute prep. All you did was wash and cut the potatoes, the squash, doused it with a little bit of olive oil and roasted all of these things together. However, the secret of this dish, remember, is to roast those potatoes early first and to get a nice brown on them so they're nice and crispy brown while the squash is brown but still soft and very, very soft in the center, and the potatoes are more crusty, golden roast. So let's give it a taste.
Can't wait to try it. Oh my gosh.
Potatoes are perfect.
That potato was perfect.
Such a simple thing like a squash. And yet
Very
it melts, it literally melts in your mouth.
It did, literally.
It's wonderful. Something just, you know, you taste your dish too. If you want a little more salt, wanted to add a little bit more coarse black pepper, that would be lovely as well. I think we have another great dish on our
I
hands.
think we do.